UFC 299 is upon us. Today's main event challenge is presented by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you'll hear more about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours. All right, here we go. John, Anik, Ken, Flo, Brian, Petrie, ready to go. And we are going to begin at the top of the card. The main event for the undisputed UFC bantamweight title. Sean O'Malley has swelled to a minus 285 betting favorite. Marlon Chito Vera plus 230. Little background for you guys. 23rd UFC appearance for Chito Vera, and at long last, finally is set to compete for UFC gold. He is the most prolific finisher in the history of this division, and one of those 11 finishes did come against Sean O'Malley. It was the first meeting between these two at the Apex, and it was UFC 252 non-championship setting, August of 2020. Now, Bri, championship stakes, and the rematch as O'Malley makes his first defense of the bantamweight title. Who do you have in the main event, sir?
A lot of rematches happening lately, and I'm not complaining. This is the one we need. Sugar, to me, listen, I'm a Sugar guy. I know I picked Aljo against him. Phenomenal performance by Sugar, but I'm part of the Sugar show. I was going to wear a shirt today. The wife's wearing it. She loves it with all the multicolors. What are you going to do? The guy's talented, right? He has power. His footwork's phenomenal. His speed's great. You look at the Paiva fight, one punch knockout, deaded him. You look at the first Chito fight, though, and he didn't get off. He only landed 10 strikes in round one. I know he got clipped in the leg, the nerve thing, and that kind of derailed everything. But it almost looked like a really slow start and a guy that was confused because Chito's a brick house in there. Chito doesn't move. He's never been put out. It's never been finished in the UFC or in MMA. And he's walking forward. And Sean, I thought, got thrown up a little pause there. But skill for skill, I think Sean is phenomenal. He's got to be the Sean that fought Petr, who went and said, I got to win this third round. He's got to be the Sean that goes, I need to land 230 strikes like I did against Chris Motino because I'm not putting this guy out. But I got to have that kind of cardio because I'm going 5 rounds here. Chito only gets better as the fight goes on. His last 6 fights, he's only outstruck one person. And that was his last fight. That was his own. He's always down on the cards, but he finds a way to either KO you or in the Rob Font fight, landing the hardest strikes. I don't see that being a path for victory for Chito. I think Chito's going to have to really establish something early. He's going to have to hit him early, look for leg kicks, look for maybe even a little wrestling as well, because we've seen some wrestling, some success from Petr over Sean in the wrestling. But I like Sean just styling on him. I love the number at minus 285. I would play this north of 300. I know people, it's a rematch and they think Chito has his number. Chito is filthy in there, but I think Sean has all the skills to pay the bills, baby. And I think Sean O'Malley takes this here. I think he's not going to get a finish. So I like Sean O'Malley by decision.
All right, all these odds courtesy of DraftKings Sportsbook. So, Kenny, O'Malley did want this rematch and pined for it, despite that Chito did have that loss to Corey Sandhagen last March. So Chito is 1-1 spanning his last 2. Your thoughts ultimately on the fight, Kenny, and Chito Vera's ability to spring the upset here against O'Malley?
Well, I think O'Malley has a lot of confidence on the feet, right? And I think that he believes that Chito really isn't going to be too much of a threat with his takedown game, which allows him to be more free-flowing with his striking. Now, the way that I see it as far as advantages, for O'Malley, he's got the length, he's got the footwork, and that is a major one. It's a subtle one, but it's a major one. And then you have the power and you have the accuracy. For Marlon's advantages, he has durability, he has longevity. He's a bit of a strong finisher, not only because he actually finishes fights, right? He's got 8 knockouts, 10 submissions, but the way that he finishes a fight, rounds 4 and 5. That's when he comes on strong. Why? Because it takes him a little while to get in his groove, get in his rhythm. And I think a lot of his lack of volume is not due to the fact that he's not in condition, right? He is always very well conditioned. I think a lot of it has to do with his footwork. That's what puts you in a position to allow you to strike. Now, against someone like O'Malley, I think that's going to hurt him. Chito's an absolute beast. You look at his wins, his last few wins, Munoz, Cruz, Font, Edgar, Davey Grant. These are very, very tough fighters. Having a couple finishes over guys like Frankie Edgar, Dominic Cruz, that is impressive as hell. He did have that loss against Corey Sandhagen. What lost him that fight? Again, footwork, length. That's really where it was really tough for him to get into range. And I think he'll unfortunately run to that same hurdle here against O'Malley. I'm not sure O'Malley's going to be able to finish him. If O'Malley's able to finish someone like Chito, I think that would be a major, major statement. I have immense respect for Chito Vera and how far he has come as a mixed martial artist. We called some of his early fights, John, and to see that level of improvement is insane. He's a true martial artist, but he also really is a fighter at heart. I think it's going to be very entertaining. It's a fascinating fight, but I think O'Malley just has a little bit too many advantages heading into this one. So I like O'Malley here as well.
All right, co-main event scheduled for 5 rounds in the lightweight division. Benoit Saint-Denis right now on DraftKings Sportsbook, minus 218. Dustin Poirier, plus 180. And what a rise it has been for the former French Special Force operative, Benoit Saint-Denis. He lost that short notice UFC debut up at welterweight. It was UFC 267 in 2021. He ends up on the wrong side of one of the worst beatings in UFC history. Still survives, of course, those 15 minutes with Eliseo Zaleski dos Santos. And since Kenny, we're going to lead with you here. He's reeled off 5 straight wins at lightweight, all of them knockouts or submission. And now the money's pouring in on BSD. Minus 218, the favorite this weekend in the 5-round co-main event against Dustin Poirier. Kenfo lead the charge. Who leaves Miami as the winner of the co-main event?
I think this is a really fascinating fight. And I got to say, I was pleasantly surprised, John, when I got your email this morning and you updated us with these odds, because I don't know. It kind of reminds me of the Will Ferrell quote of like, am I taking crazy pills here? Because I don't see this huge disparity with the line here. Not that I'm this big gambler or anything like that, but to me, it's not making sense. Yes, Benoit Saint-Denis is an absolute savage. And yes, he has a very interesting style to go against someone like Dustin Poirier. But if we're comparing resumes of who Benoit has fought, we're looking at Frivola, Thiago Moises, Ismael Bonfim, Gabriel Miranda, Nicholas Stoltz. These are very tough guys, and he certainly has a lot of momentum heading into this fight. But when I'm comparing resumes and wins, Chandler, Connor twice, Daniel Hooker, Max Holloway, Eddie Alvarez, Justin Gaethje again. He's fought Khabib, Gaethje twice, Oliveira. I mean, like, it's just a whole different ball of wax when we're comparing resumes. Now, what are we looking at? Are we looking at trajectories? Who's going up? Who's going down? Okay, then it starts to make a little bit more sense. I think Benoit's takedown ability is going to be a factor here, and it all comes down to Dustin Poirier's takedown ability. Because for me, with BSD, his striking needs work. He's tough as hell. He's got a chin from hell, but he does get hit a lot. And against someone like Dustin Poirier, who can crack, who's got, welterweight style knockout power, I think he's got to be really careful there. I think Dustin's just the cleaner striker. Dustin isn't a perfect striker himself, but I think he's significantly more dangerous on the feet. I like Dustin here. I don't see it. I think there's a lot of value here. I see this line changing a lot, not necessarily because of what I'm saying, but I think people just need to come to their senses of who's the more experienced fighter, who's faced higher level of competition, and skill versus skill. So I don't know. Fascinating fight. Can't wait to see. My hands are sweating. Brian,
let's go.
Well, hang on a second before BP gets in here. I just want to point out, and maybe some of that Poirier money will show later in the week, but this betting line has moved 42% since the open, which had Poirier roughly minus 175 or so. And Brian, Poirier was not excited about a fight with Beneil Dariush a couple years ago, in part because he didn't think the fans would be excited. And largely, I think he was right. He took this fight, maybe knowing he might end up the betting underdog at close, or maybe not, but because he saw that Benoit Saint-Denis was all the rage. And as a fan favorite that he always is, he felt like there would be fan enthusiasm for this fight. So 30th UFC appearance for Dustin Poirier. How do you think he fares as the dog this weekend against Benoit? Seek and destroy Saint-Denis.
I mean, MMA gambling is such a what have you done for me lately? Benoit Saint-Denis, the new killer. Poirier has flirted with retirement. Only take fights that interest me. He's coming off a knockout. This line is crazy, getting DP at this money. And not only that, getting DP with the skin fade, the old school DP coming mean. This guy's mindset has changed tenfold since the beginning of his career. He is locked and loaded in there. He is the best, and I say the best, counter puncher in the pocket in MMA. You get in the pocket, you get him in space, he's catching you every time. Ask Conor McGregor, ask Dan Hooker, he's phenomenal. His chin was questionable, and now he fights through it. He'll get buzz, he'll work his way out. Kenny hit all the nails on the head. Great points from Kenny. I think BSD is going to look for the takedown. He likes to grapple. He's a big, strong guy. He likes to grapple, likes to throw volume. I think he's going to come out there. I mean, he threw 57 kicks against Bone Freeman in their fight. He's going to come out aggressive. He's going to jump on Poirier. Poirier's experience is going to let him withstand that storm and battle back, just like he did against a really dangerous Michael Chandler, just like he did against a Conor McGregor in their second fight, Conor came out hot with the boxing. It took a minute, then he landed his shots. You look at Benoit Saint-Denis against Thiago Moises, great fight, super aggressive, landed incredible strikes, but he slowed down a little bit and he got caught a lot. Thiago Moises is a great fighter, but he ain't the diamond in that pocket, baby. Dustin Poirier can crack with both hands. He's a tricky southpaw. I think this number is egregious, and I love it. It will move a lot. This will probably be, maybe the main event, but I would say this will be the most bet fight of the night, in my opinion, because the line is so wacky. And we still don't really know how great Benoit Saint-Denis is. He took out our boy Matty Frivola, but he got taken down twice, battled back up, landed a kick on the break, was phenomenal. And he's looked so good, but he doesn't have the resume or the skulls that Dustin Poirier has. And we're going to find out, baby. And we're going to find out in Miami, and I can't wait. I'm all in on Poirier, though. I love this number. I love the fight for him. And I love that he took the hair down and said, let's go. I'll fight anybody. That's the best.
All right, the guys are aligned through two fights. We move on down the UFC 299 pay-per-view main card to a featured bout at welterweight. Kevin Holland, -135. Michael Venom Page, +114. MVP, never won the Bellator title outright, but he did go 16-2 under that banner, and now at 36 years of age, makes his much-hyped UFC debut against the promotional workhorse Kevin Holland. Holland's already fought 20 times in a UFC career that dates to 2018, coming off a split loss to Jack Della Maddalena at Noche UFC last September. Loudest ovations all week with respect to all the Mexican fighters were for Kevin Holland. Wildly popular. Certainly going to be a lot of support for both of these athletes in Miami. BP, we'll go back to you on this one. How do you feel about this feature battle welterweight? You going Holland or Michael Venom Page?
What a signing, the UFC signing at MVP. He's so exciting. Here's a guy who's wiry, right? Skinny and wiry. He crushed a guy's skull in with a knee. Oh, in his last fight, he busted a dude's kneecap with a kick. Even though he's skinny and not bricked up, he's got tough bones. And he went and is the only guy to never quit against Mike Perry in bare knuckle boxing in a very close fight. This dude is legit. He's awkward. He's interesting. He's explosive. Yes, he's 36. His takedown offense shouldn't be slept on. I've been getting DMs. I've been getting hit up like, hey, Kevin Holland by submission, lock it up. Sure, Michael Venom Page has never been submitted, but I don't think Kevin Holland's going to take him down. I think Kevin Holland may have a path there. It's a lot easier said than done. He's not like an all-star wrestler. I think they're going to stand up a bang. I think this is what it's going to be. Kevin Holland's 6'3", rangy, but we've seen it before, boys. The UFC is the show, right? And Kevin Holland's been in the show for a long time. MVP has fought some good people. There are some weak spots in his record. We're going to see where he belongs here. This is perfect matchmaking. I think it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to play on the feet. However, I'm going to take the guy that's been in the show a little bit longer than Kevin Holland here. I don't know how he gets it done. I don't have a feel for that yet, but give me Kevin Holland money line. I like that.
Kenny, Umar Nurmagomedov in our fighter meeting last week sort of deadpanned, it's MMA. I'm going to fight him where I'm better. And I think we all can agree Kevin Holland would be wise to mix it up. But what are your thoughts on how this one plays out here at 170 pounds?
Yeah, here's the thing. I mean, you'd think Kevin Holland would try to do that more against someone like Wonder Boy. And I think you have a style in Michael Venom Page that is very similar, right? So, yeah, I think both of them have very similar builds. Kevin Holland, I think, has the ability to take down MVP, but he's not necessarily a guy that I would say, hey, he's an unbelievable takedown guy. And sometimes I think he gets a little stubborn, and sometimes he will kind of concede to entertain the crowd more than going, I'm going to take the easiest path to victory. That is a concern for me. So I don't know, especially when you get a guy who is very cocky and flashy like Michael Venom Page. These guys are very similar in how they approach the game. They'll both talk trash during a fight. How does that charge up the emotional connection to the fight for both of these guys, for that matter? So I think this is another tremendous fight. what makes Michael Venom Page, I think, so dangerous is the fact that he can close distance extremely fast. Those blitzes are just nasty. He'll create these kind of car crash type scenarios, whether he's attacking and initiating the blitz or if you're coming forward. That is the worst possible thing to do. If he's able to get Kevin to be impatient, seeking out a clinch or seeking out a strike, that's where Michael Venom Page will strike you exactly like a snake. I mean, it's just unbelievable, his ability to create those car crash-like exchanges, and he always comes out on top. And you'll slow the video down. I'm looking at this, and I'm going, did he really hit him clean? He doesn't hit you clean, but you're still dropping like a fly. It's unbelievable. So I'm fascinated from that aspect. His timing, his length, his speed, his ability to dominate the distance and dictate the range of the fight is something that is very uncanny. So I'm really curious to see how it goes down. I think Kevin Holland can win this fight. Will he win this fight? I'm not so sure. It's very close on the odds. I like the fact that you can get Michael Venom Page at plus 114. When it's this close, I'm going to concede to the underdog, but I also just think it's a very difficult stylistic matchup for Kevin Holland. Holland has to take this fight to the ground. He's got to put MVP on his back. That's where he wins this. I don't think it's the best path to victory to trade with someone like MVP.
Michael Venom Page plus 114 on DraftKings Sportsbook right now, where 70% of the handle has come in on that fight on MVP. All right, continuing with the main event challenge here on the Anik and Florian podcast as we transition to another welterweight fight. The aforementioned Della Maddalena, who fought Kevin Holland last September, is the minus 148 betting favorite here, Ken Flo, against Gilbert Burns, who is plus 124. Some money has come in on JDM over the last 48 hours or so. He's 6-0 in the UFC. He's the younger fighter, went 3-0 in 2023. Last two wins, though, were both by split decision. Ken Flo will lead with you here, my man. Your thoughts on Della Maddalena against the former world title challenger, Gilbert Burns.
It's really impressive anytime you get a guy who has a 16-fight win streak going for him. And that is very unusual. And Della Maddalena has that. He also has 11 knockouts, 2 submissions. He's a finisher through and through. He's got some decent experience at this standpoint. When I'm looking at the resume again, right, experience matters in this sport, especially at the highest levels. He does not have the same level of competition as a Gilbert Burns. Getting a win over Kevin Holland is awesome. Getting a win over Randy Brown is impressive as well. Some of the other guys, though, I think the Hafez fight, I don't know if I'm saying that right, was one of those eye-openers for me where his stock dropped a little bit in my mind. And if he's giving up easy takedowns like that against someone like Gilbert Burns, who is an absolute assassin on the ground, that's where Gilbert Burns can really take over the fight and finish the fight, not only with his submission game, of course, but also with his TKO ability, landing that ground and pound for mount or for side control. Those are the things that you got to watch out for Gilbert Burns. Now, for Gilbert, sometimes he gets stuck in either being just a striker or just a grappler. He has to unify that a little bit better, set up his takedowns. And if he's able to do that, I think he wins this fight either by decision or by finish. Now, Della Maddalena can win this fight as well. I think he's that good of a striker. His head movement, his ability to counter you, his ability to get you to slip, his ability to slip your strikes, I think, is extremely impressive. It's very unusual seeing it at that level in mixed martial arts. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if JDM wins this fight on the feet, especially. But I think it's going to be difficult. I'm going to concede to the guy with more experience here. And I think Gilbert Burns at plus 124 is an attractive choice here. So give me Burns.
Della Maddalena, 27 years of age. He won't be 28 until September. Gilbert Burns is 37. He'll be 38 this July and hasn't fought since that 5-round decision loss to Bilal Muhammad. That was UFC 288 all the way back on May 6th of 2023. And Bry Burns now 3 years removed from challenging Kamaru Usman for the title. That was 2021. He's 3-2 in the 5 fights since. Your thoughts on Gilbert Burns against Della Maddalena? My man!
So ignore my last two previous breakdowns where I said experience matters, because those guys aren't fighting three-name Jack, right? This dude is, I've been on him since day one. I think his boxing's phenomenal. A lot of people were down on him after the Basel fight because he really did some dumb things on the ground. He jumped in when he shouldn't have. What are you doing? You could have finished it. The guy was gassed on his feet. And then the Kevin Holland split decision. A lot of people thought Kevin Holland won that fight his last time out. I thought three-name Jack won that. You look at Gilbert Burns, right? We always talk about age. Alexander Volkanovski's getting his age thrown in his face the guy's going to be 38 soon, coming off shoulder surgery, right? Spent a lot of his career at 55. He's now at 70, which I think fills out his frame well. And he has a path to victory here. When he fights strikers like a Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, like a Jorge Masvidal, he goes for takedowns. He lands takedowns, he smothers you, he decisions you. That's the Gilbert Burns way. He has phenomenal striking, good boxing, and he has speed. He's going to have the speed over Jack. But Jack is going to open up Gilbert, and Gilbert's defensive issues, I think, are going to play part here on the feet. I think Gilbert has been knocked out twice in the UFC. He's been put down a few other times. And I think Jack's got to do that with his body work, with his head movement inside the pocket. I'm worried about the takedowns, of course, like everyone is, but I'm not wavering. I've been on three-name Jack since day one. I'm not going to waver. I'm going to put a hefty wager on my own personal money on my guy, Jackie D here. So I'm all over Jack Della Maddalena here, baby. 148. Hopefully it comes down. Hopefully money comes on Burns. We get him a little bit sweeter, but give me three-name Jack for sure.
All right, pay-per-view main card opener, Petr Yan, minus 118, Song Yadong, minus 102. Yan, the former UFC bantamweight champ. He was minus 142 when I sent you guys the odds last Friday. Now he's minus 118. Speaks to some action coming in on Song Yadong. Yan, of course, the former UFC undisputed bantamweight champion at 1.7-0 in the UFC. Now he's 8-4 in the UFC, having lost 3 in a row to Aljamain Sterling, Sean O'Malley, and Merab Dvalishvili. He's had a full year off, Bri, dating to that loss against Merab. And then on the other side, Song Yadong has looked fantastic, right? Main event wins over Ricky Simón and Chris Gutierrez, so perhaps that speaks to some of the line movement. Brian Petrie will lead with you. Your thoughts on the bantamweights here. Petr Yan, the slight favorite, or Song Yadong, the slight dog?
One of my weaknesses at cappers, I don't jump on lines early enough because I've only had a full year of actually live betting in my state. When you sent me that email and I saw Song Yadong at plus money, I went and bet it. Put some action on it. I love Song Yadong in this fight. You ever take like a test in school, Scantron, and all of a sudden you look up and the last 5 questions were C's and you're like, this is a C too, but there's no way it's a C. It's got to be a B, right? So you trick yourself thinking it's a B. That's how you feel. Period. There's no way this guy's going to lose 4 fights. He's too good. He's lost 3 in a row right now. There's no way he's going to lose a 4th. I love the year off. He's fighting elite competition. He's a very elite guy himself. Slow starter, though, and Song Yadong has reached peak confidence. I picked Ricky Simón in that fight. Ricky Simón couldn't even touch him on the ground. Couldn't even get him there. Couldn't even sniff him there, and Song Yadong pieced him up. Confidence, power, cardio, all plays a factor. This is a 3-round fight where Petr Yan shows up a little slow in round 1. He gets his reads. I think that's going to be detrimental here. I like Song Yadong, probably by decision. I'm heavy on him. I got him my plus number. Hopefully he drops a little bit more here, but I'm big on Song Yadong in this fight.
Ken Flo, your mic is hot. Petr Yan, minus 118, Song Yadong, minus 102.
Gosh, another fascinating fight here. You mentioned Jan's record. You look at his record of the last 6 fights, he's 2-4. But then you look at who he lost to. He lost to Merab. He lost to O'Malley. He lost to Sterling twice. But then you look at his wins, Sandhagen and Aldo. I mean, it's ridiculous, his schedule. So I don't think he's someone you should sleep on at this stage of the game. However, Song Yadong is an absolute beast. He's fighting better than ever, in my opinion. However, he doesn't have the same type of schedule that Petr Yan has. I don't think many people do. And I'm really curious to see with this long layoff how Petr Yan looks in this fight. I think that, for him, he's got to mix it up. Song, I think, is probably going to be the faster guy out there, and Petr Yan has to get off to a good start. I think Brian nailed it there. He's got to be really careful and very defensively sound to start this fight. Got to be smart. Has to be the guy who's leading the dance and backing up the other fighter until he gets into his rhythm. And once he is able to get into his rhythm, that's where I think Petr Yan is able to kind of win rounds and win the fight. I don't see a finish here, but for me, I'm actually leaning towards Petr Petr Yan here. I think the mix of his grappling and clinching ability is going to be a handful for Song Yadong. I also think Song Yadong isn't as good or isn't as dangerous if you're backing him up. And that's where we need that Petr Yan, who is that predator, the guy who is going to go out there and seek you out. And the fact that Song Yadong is on a nice win streak is great, but and Ricky Simone and Chris Gutierrez, they're very tough guys, but they're not the Merab Dvalishvilis. They're not the Sean O'Malley's. They're not the Aljamain Sterlings or Sanhagens or Jose Aldos for that matter. So let's see what happens. Fascinating fight. If Song Yadong is able to win this one, I think it would put not only Petr Yan in a very tough spot, but it would set up Song Yadong for a potential future title fight in 2024, I think.
All right, great job on the main card handicap. That is it for the official main card main event challenge for UFC 299. If you want prelim selections from the fellas, only way to access those are on the full-length episode of the Anik and Florian podcast. All right, 3 prelims I would like to break down if we could, gentlemen. At heavyweight, Curtis Razor Blaydes, -115. Jailton Almeida, -105. This fight, of course, initially was scheduled as a 5-round main event last November. Blaydes, though, was forced to pull out. Derek Lewis stepped in. Almeida didn't finish him. He beat him by unanimous decision. And now this one shall be done as Malyagino looks to improve to 7-0 in the UFC. Brian, I thought Matty Betts had some interesting points about this particular fight and how the price on Jailton Almeida for bettors on that side is much sweeter than it would have been if these guys were in a main event last November. You see value on Almeida, value on Blaydes. Which way are you going?
I love this fight. I love the matchup for both guys. Excuse for the voice crack there. I guess I'm 37, so going through puberty. Jailton Almeida, though, is one of my guys. Like, this is a guy I keep a high regard of. I think we're going to have to see some striking here. I don't think he can take Curtis Blaydes down. I just don't think he can. And Curtis Blaydes, I'll be interested if he wants to take Jailton down because Jailton's very good on the ground. Haven't seen much off his back, but sweeps and whatnot, you can get put in a precarious situation. Jailton Almeida, jail time, my jail man. Listen, he did not look great against Derek Lewis. There's some much needed finish ability that needed to happen in that fight, but it's a win. It's a learning experience. You move on. Now you're getting a tougher guy in Curtis Blaydes, who has shown really great striking. He's very fast on the feet. He has only struggled with guys who just can put your lights out one punch. I haven't seen that in Jailton yet. So this is going to be interesting. We actually have Curtis Blaydes. You look at his record. He hasn't fought too many like pure grapplers. Yeah, you got Alexei Oleinik in there, but Alexei was like, 76 when they fought. So I don't know if that really counts. This guy's in his prime right now. I'm going to go Jailton Almeida because I haven't faded him since. He's been a cash cow for me. And I'm really curious to see how he goes against a guy like Curtis Blaydes who, maybe will never hold the title at 100 or 200 or 265 pounds, which is crazy because how good he is. So this is going to be a huge test for me.
Well, given all Blaydes has accomplished, it's kind of crazy he hasn't found himself in a championship setting yet. Kenny Almeida could find himself in a fight for the interim championship against Tom Aspinall as the headliner for UFC 301 in Rio, May 4th, less than 2 months from today, right? That would be an expeditious rise, but there's no main event, at least right now, for UFC 301. What are your thoughts on Almeida here? Slight dog this weekend against Curtis Razor Blaydes.
Yeah, and I think Jailton would have his most impressive victory to date if he's able to beat someone like Curtis Blaydes, in my opinion. Now, to give you a little history on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in Brazil, you have Rio, which is probably one of the strongest areas where they produce the best jiu-jitsu guys. You have Sao Paulo, again, another hot spot. You have even the Amazons. You have trying to think. Well, there's other areas, but Bahia, Salvador, where Jailton is from, isn't necessarily this hot spot to produce great Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys. It doesn't mean Jailton isn't good. He's good. He's just not great. He doesn't come from a city. I'm trying to think of the equivalent. It'd be like, Iowa, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. They're producing some of the best wrestlers in the country. Yeah. Massachusetts is not producing. Sorry, right. Massachusetts. Right. Not producing the best wrestlers. Okay, so to give you that equivalent. And I think we saw that lack of finishing ability or precise finishing ability in that fight against Derek Lewis, which was shocking because that was a fight where he had a ton of riding time on top of Derek Lewis, not known for his grappling game. And I think it's a credit to Derek Lewis for improving that aspect and being conservative with how he extended his limbs and things. But if you can't finish someone like Derek Lewis on the ground and you're a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, I think you got some work to do. And I don't see him, like, if he couldn't do that on top of Derek Lewis, well, how does he do that on bottom against someone like Curtis Blaydes? I just don't have high hopes for him here in this fight because he does his best work when he's taking you down. It's possible he takes Curtis Blaydes down. I think that he's extremely athletic. I think if he lands a big overhand right, it could pose some problems for Blaydes. I just think Blaydes is the more clean, fundamental striker here. And I think with his wrestling advantage, that will come into play. I like Blaydes here. And you look at as far as, resume and all that stuff, Blaydes has fought the tougher guys, in my opinion. So give me Curtis Blaydes.
And actually, I wouldn't be surprised to see Tom Aspinall and Curtis Blaydes run back that one, just given the nature of that fight. I do think eventually you're going to see Tom Aspinall defend that interim championship. And who knows, maybe it's as soon as May. Maybe they shelve him for a rumored English show this summer. All right, at flyweight, fellas, 25-year-old Maycee Barber is the minus 198 betting favorite here, putting her 5-fight winning streak on the line against Katlyn Sermonara, plus 164. Sermonara fighting with her married name for the first time in the UFC, the mixed martial arts athlete formerly known as Katlyn Chookagian. On the other side, Maycee Barber, she's on a tear. She's never been finished in 15 pro fights. Starting to become one of the more well-rounded threats in this division. Seems like a good test for her, Bri, at this point in time. Sermonara, I think, still the goods at 35 years of age, but she has not fought since a decision loss to Manon Fior all the way back at UFC 280 in 2022. Bri, what do you think here? You going Maycee Barber, the near 2-1 favorite, or Katlyn Chookagian Sermonara, the dog?
So I don't want to derail the conversation too much. I have a new light, right? And I looked at myself and I'm so pale. And it just reminded me of this weekend. We were watching the fights and my wife said, look how good John looks. John looks so tan.
Oh.
She said it under her breath a couple times. And I said, what the fuck's going on here? And I'm like, look at me. I'm like a ghost. So anyway, I got distracted by my own ghostness.
Let's go, Eric.
Johnny, your skin is fantastic. Speaking of this fight, I love this fight. Maycee Barber, I love this career resurgence almost. And it was kind of made by the fans. She lost to Roxy, blew her knee out, came back a little too soon, didn't get quite. Now she's on a 5-fight win streak. And she's coming off one of the best performances of her career with a finish. She's not rushing takedowns anymore. She's believing in her cardio, believing in her striking. She is mean in there, which I love. Katlyn Chookagian, Sermonara, fantastic fighter, amazing. This is going to be only been finished by the elites. Shevchenko got her, Andrade got her. If Maycee could go out there and finish Katlyn, that's huge. But I see a decision win here. I see Katlyn going out there like a female tennis star with all her shots, right? I see it going to a decision, but I see Maycee just dominating everywhere it goes. I think she's better on the ground. I think her volume won't match Katlyn, but I think the power will put Katlyn a step back a little bit. I'm big on Maycee here. I like the number too. I thought we were going to get her a little bit higher. Believe it or not, I thought Maycee was going to come in about 240. So minus 198 is gorgeous. Hopefully maybe we can get her down a little lower because Katlyn Chookagian is known to get some decisions to her. But I'm all over Barber on this one.
Kenny, I mentioned the layoff for Sermonara. She did miss weight for that Manon Fior fight for the first time in her career. Katlyn looks to be in the best shape of her life right now. Whether or not that produces the desired result this weekend at UFC 299, I don't know. But Kenny, if you have a prediction, we would certainly take it.
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting fight. I'm definitely leaning towards Barber here as well. I don't see it perhaps going as dominantly as Brian does. It's possible, but for Katlyn, she is very disciplined and very smart when she fights, and I think she has the right tools to get it done here in the form of her jab, in the form of her teep to the body. But she has to stick and move consistently and not fall into that grind that Maycee Barber can put on you. I think if Maycee's able to get to that clinch fight, she has some of the best clinch fighting in the women's divisions. No question about that. And you look at their resumes, they've both fought killers. I mean, their last 5 fights, they have a lot of tough names on there. But I like Maycee here as well. I think that her high pressure game, her output with her volume, especially in that clinch, is going to pose some problems for Katlyn. So Katlyn really has to get those long-range weapons going and do it consistently. So I think it'll be a relatively close fight. Both ladies are so tough, but I like the momentum and the game that Barber is bringing in right now. I think she has settled in a little bit more as far as integrating everything together, and she's balanced that with aggression like Brian was talking about. So I think this is going to be a fun fight.
All right, nicely done there. That brings us to our 8th and final fight to break down, a prelim at UFC 299 at lightweight. Number 6, Mateusz Gamrot, minus 410, the betting favorite, against the number 11th ranked lightweight and former divisional champion Rafael dos Anjos, plus 320. RDA, the likely future Hall of Famer, taking part in his 48th pro MMA fight. He's 21-13 in the UFC. You do the math. 35th UFC appearance. Last time out, Bry, August of 2023. He was on the wrong end of a 5-round unanimous decision loss to Vicente Luque. On the other side, Gamrot has won 6 of 7. Last win came against Rafael Fiziev in a main event last September. And then you may recall he weighed in as the backup 1 month later for the rematch between Islam Makhachev and Alexander Volkanovski. So Gamrot right there in contention. How do you think he fares this weekend against the credentialed Rafael dos Anjos?
Has there ever been a fighter in UFC history that bounced weight more than dos Anjos? I mean, I know Kenny fought at every weight, but I mean, dos Anjos, 170, 155. He can't pick a weight class. Listen, this is your classic RDA saying no to nobody. Oh, he wants to fight? Cool. He's coming off an 8 takedown. He gave up 8 takedowns to Vicente Luque. Mateusz Gamrot. Am I saying that right? Did I butcher that one too? Mateusz. God, Brian. Mateusz Gamrot. That's all this guy does is he takes you down. His striking's coming along, but the high pressure, high octane, super aggressive wrestling approach has been RDA's kryptonite. And I mean, minus 410 is outrageous. You want to take your RDA because you're like, he can land something, but Gamrot's got a chin on him. He's been landing on before. Benny Dariush put a big right hand on him, put him on his butt. He didn't go out from that. Don't see RDA at this point in his career putting him out either. I like Gamrot. This could be, if you're running, I'm not a parlay guy, but if you're running a 4-legger parlay, this is a good anchor. I know 410's chunky, but if you need some wins on a fight night that a lot of these fights are very close on the line, which tells you it's going to be a great fight or a fight card, Gamrot could be a good anchor. I like Gamrot here. I think he's going to decision him. But yeah, it's, RDA needs to know how to say no every once in a while, I think. But, that's what makes him the best. That's what makes him the best. So what are we going to do?
Kenflo, every time I take a piss, the price on Mateusz Gamrot goes up. Minus 410 right now on DraftKings Sportsbook. What do you think?
Oh, that's tremendous. Listen, man. Yeah, Brian nailed it. I think that RDA has always struggled with superior wrestlers, especially if he's up against the cage. That has been his kryptonite, no question about that. I do think he has the striking advantage here in this fight, and I do think RDA is going to be dangerous for those first 5 to 7 minutes. But Gamrot can put a pace on you, brother. I mean, this guy will be right in your face. He does have a chin that should hold up here. And, I know RDA has struggled against some wrestlers. That has been at 170 pounds. This fight, of course, at 155. So I don't know. I think that Gamrot, still has the recipe to get it done here. Doesn't have so many miles on his, career like RDA does, certainly. So I think RDA's best bet here is to try to get it done early. If he doesn't, I think that's where Gamrot really can take over. Don't love the fact that the line went up for Gamrot here, but as Brian alluded to, it's probably still worth it here. Gamrot's got a tough game for RDA to deal with.
All right, it is now the moment of truth. Time for Place Your Bets for UFC 299. Place Your Bets is brought to you by JohnAnik.com, where you can get 20% off your entire order with promo code One More Sleep. Couple more sleeps to go here before UFC 299. We quickly update the standings. Petrie was at minus 778.70. You go 2-2 on the week. Total nut is minus 67.52. So you're minus 846.22 on the year. Florian was at minus 1209.67. He goes 2-1 on the week. A total net positive $77.18 year to date, minus 1132.49. So the Petrie lead, $286.27. Brian, you have $1,000 to spend at UFC 299. How are you spending your money?
Well, John, don't get too comfortable writing those negatives down for your boy. I got the money hat on right now, and I'm about to pick a clean board. $300 on my guy, Sugar Sean O'Malley. I just have a good feeling about that. I really like Song Yadong as well. $300 on Song Yadong. I know a lot of people, that's a tough fight, but I love Song Yadong. Give me $200 on 3-Name Jack. Jackie D, because that's my guy. And then it'd be criminal not to bet Dustin Poirier at plus 180. Give me $200 on Dustin Poirier as well. 4 wagers.
All right, 4 straight wagers for Brian Petrie on Sean O'Malley, Song Yadong, Jack Della, Maddalena, and Dustin Poirier. Ken Flo, $1,000 to spend at the monster that is UFC 299. Talk to me.
You got it, dog. All right, so this Poirier line I really like. Give me $400 on DP.
Wow.
Yeah, on MVP, give me 300. Give me 300 on MVP, and give me 150 on Blaydes.
Okay.
And then these parlays have been burning me. So what do? Let's go back in. Let's go Barber, Blaydes, O'Malley for another 150. Let's go.
All right, 3-leg parlay to close it out. Maycee, Barber, Curtis Blaydes, and Sean O'Malley. I like what you both did with the action this weekend. If you want more from Brian Petrie, and why would you not, at Brian Petrie MMA. BP, great job. We will talk to you next week as the fight cards and the picks keep on coming. Great job, brother.
Johnny, have a great show. You're in your backyard, brother. I know not getting on a plane is going to help you a lot. I can't wait. I'll see you guys.
Thank you, man. There he is, Brian Petrie, with us for the main event challenge, and place your bets every week here on the Anik and Florian podcast. Yeah, burning it all ends with the back-to-back. I was supposed to be in Saudi Arabia. That became a UFC fight night at the Apex, but certainly nice to hit the wheels to the pavement and not hitting the metal tube for UFC 299. All right, that is going to do it for this week. Thank you to Maddie Betts, Jason Anik, Brian Petrie for joining us for this extensive UFC 299 preview. We, of course, are back to recap the shit out of it with you on Monday, March 11th, as we see if Chito Vera can dethrone Sean O'Malley, or if the road to UFC bantamweight glory and gold still goes through the great state of Arizona. Thank you to our executive producer, Cody Bone Merrill. Don't forget, johnanik.com for all of your Anik and Florian podcast merchandise. That includes our newly launched One More Sleep designs, including the one for $299 that Ken Flo is wearing, not now, but right now. Also check out KennyFlorianMartialArts.com, and we will see all of you fine people on the other side of the pay-per-view next Monday on the DraftKings YouTube channel. For Ken Flo, I'm John Anik. Thank you all for watching, for listening, for subscribing. Tell your mom we'll talk to you next week. You'll live.
The soul to the bread, he's cornbread. Cornbread! He's cornbread. Cornbread! Life is so precious, do the best that you can. Keep your hands on the bar, hit the open man. He's cornbread.